Hi, everybody. I am so excited about our guest today. I was gushing a little bit before we even started recording, so I'm going to wait and keep gushing in a minute. But once you hear about our guest, you'll understand why. Her name is Francesca Sipma, and she is the founder and CEO of Mastry Inc. And you were recommended to me by our mutual friend, Melissa. And I have to tell you, the work that you're doing is life-changing. So welcome so much to this podcast, and I'm so excited to dive in.
Thank you so much. You're already giving me chills. So this is
well, it was so fascinating because our mutual friend Melissa, who is a student of yours, was posting on Instagram some of just her personal journey from like a vulnerability standpoint. And I messaged her right away and I was like, hey, I'm kind of struggling with the same thing. And she's like, I just got certified in this breath work. Can I just gift a session to you? And I was like, yeah, okay. Like, that sounds great. Whatever you're doing, I'll have some. And she helped me through a breathwork exercise that you originated, that you came up with. And I've never experienced anything like it before. I mean, I've been doing yoga for 15 years. I've done personal development. But tell me a little bit about, you went from advertising to marketing for global brands to a certified breathwork coach and hypnotherapist. Like, what was that journey like for you?
Yeah, I think I probably felt what a lot of people are experiencing right now in today's culture and society, I think, which was a lot of burnout, a lot of overwhelm. And I think that when you accomplish the goals that you believe that you wanted to achieve and you still don't feel happy, that's when something's off, right? Like there's something to explore there. So I had the career that I always thought I wanted, and then just realized that it wasn't lighting me up and I needed to start to explore what that might look like. Had no idea it was going to take me on a journey to become a breathwork coach by any means. But it did, because I went through this process of breathwork that really helped me connect to myself, to my true desires, to my real motivations. And I just kept listening to those cues and my intuition got stronger and stronger. And it led me to start coaching breathwork, which, as you've experienced, is very transformative. And I think when you see people going through those deep breakthroughs and connecting with themselves and discovering their purpose, that's so rewarding that you can't really stop.
Yeah.
That's really how it started for me.
It's so good. Now, the breath work that you do is different. It's different than, breathing through your nose or your mouth or holding, like when I did this for the first time, I took my blindfold off because you have your participants put on blindfolds, and it's to certain types of music, like binaural beats. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right.
Yeah.
But it's like my brain felt like it had shifted like in 20 minutes. I don't even know how to explain it. Like, how did you figure out how to create that environment for your students?
Yeah, it was through a lot of deep self-experimentation, to be honest. When I first tried breathwork, it originated with holotropic breathwork, which is really like the grandfather style of breath. And those can be 60 minutes to 2.5 hours. And it's really for deep emotional releases. And you can access childhood memories. And it was really intense. And what I discovered is, as I would clear some of those deeper suppressed emotions that were living in me, I just started to get really clear and I started to get really intuitive. And then I could start experimenting with these sessions that were a little bit more mild, but allowed me to tap into different levels of creativity and ideas and solutions and nuances. And I started using it for a business focus. And when I would take action on the ideas that came up in my session, really interesting synchronicities would happen, in the world. And it felt like, okay, I can take elements of different practices that I found effective on my spiritual journey that helped me heal. I can create something that's more modern, that's more accessible by playing with the breath, with different vocal prompts, with different music, and honestly, just different intentions that I needed to work through in my own growth. And with that, this craft kind of came together of how to make these really effective journeys. And the coaches are just so amazing because they then do the exact same thing that I did, which is they experiment with their own blocks and then they create sessions that are really unique to them as well, or the obstacles that they're moving through. So it's truly a unique combination of breath work with hypnosis and visioning. And we just really try to make it as succinct and accessible as possible. The music really helps, the types of styles that we choose, depending on the journey. And one of our signature, cues is, what is your next action step? Because then it goes from just the experience that you're in to something tangible that you can take in your day-to-day life to create real change.
Yes, it's so good. And I use your app called Mastery. I've recommended it to like all my friends and clients. I had like a crazy experience a few weeks ago where an old trauma in business came up, and all my friends were like, "You handled that really well." And I'm like, "It was the Mastery app. That's why I handled it really well." And it was so great. Or like the kids will be, I have 3 kids under 10, and they'll be like crazy in the house. And I'll just look at my husband. I'm like, "I'm going to go meditate. I'll be back in 25 minutes. And it's funny because in the past I would try to meditate. And I'm a very, I love personal development work. I believe in meditation, but I would always kind of lose focus and come back. But during your app, I am always like, "Oh my gosh, that was 22 minutes. That flew by." Why do you think that is? Like, why is it so easy to get into the groove of the breath work in the way that you do it?
Yeah, it's different. I think meditation it's a more passive exercise. You're really becoming more still. Maybe you're observing different thoughts. You're regulating your nervous system, and any emotional triggers that might come up. The breath is definitely more intense and it's very active. I think just the process of taking that inhale into your belly, into your chest, exhale, because it's more physical, people are intrigued. They start to feel vibrations. They know something's going on. They can feel energy moving and shifting. And because our cues are so intentional about getting you to that other side and seeing your highest vision and seeing the next action, I think it just makes it tangible. And when you see the results of something so immediately, it's not like meditation or going to the gym, like which requires so much repetition and practice. You notice immediately after the first time, something's changed. I'm more calm. I'm more present. I got the idea. I have an insight. And that's pretty addicting in my opinion, in a healthy way.
It totally is. It's like a healthy addiction, because I've experienced the same where I'm stuck on a business problem. I use the app afterwards. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I totally know what to do."
Yeah.
You have some sports meditations or breathwork sessions in your app, and I'm a competitive tennis player. So I use those before I go and play tennis. And anybody who's listening knows that that's my secret. So if you play me, now you know. What were you saying?
No, that's really amazing. I played tennis in high school and it's such a mental game.
Yes.
And if I had this tool then to mentally prepare myself and regulate my nervous system based
Yes.
on different scenarios that could happen in a game, in a match, I mean, it would have been a game changer. We actually have a former professional tennis player who's in the next round of my certification who will create customized sessions where you see yourself on the court, you see your forehand, you see your backhand, you see them, so that will
Oh
be really.
my gosh. That's like the best news ever. That's like Christmas in March or whatever month this is. And it's so funny because I played in high school and college, and I think the mindset part of it burned me out. And then after having 3 kids and going through the pandemic, I was like, "I'm going to need to leave the house because it's getting a little crazy around here." And so I took up tennis again and play competitively for USTA. But the breathwork sessions, getting back into it is such a mind game that the breathwork sessions have helped so much.
I think it's cool too to mentally rehearse multiple different scenarios. Say you're down a set, like say you're down a break, and then how can you stay present in that moment? How can you just focus on the next point? To experientially go through that process in the breath before you get on the court. I mean, it really is a game changer. We're pitching hard to the NFL right now because I know that if their players can see the block, see the tackle, see the camaraderie, see the teamwork, and then also use this for active recovery if there's a loss and releasing the fear and the guilt and the shame. I mean, to really prepare your mind and body in that way will just optimize your performance to the next level.
Yeah, it's such it's such incredible work that we do on our brains. And I think, if you've studied the brain, brain science and brain health, from an intellectual standpoint, how the new roads are created and how the well-worn paths take place, and how you need to be able to do that work on your brain in order to create a new result. And I just feel like this process shortcuts that. It's like
Oh,
such a
yeah.
great way to help make it happen when you're trying to figure out exactly how to navigate change, reinvention.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point that you make on reinvention, because we're so used to doing things the way we've seen or the way that we've done before. And those are the only examples and situations that our mind can really grasp, and it's extremely limited. So
Yes.
when we do this breath practice, what it's really doing is it's changing the balance of carbon dioxide and oxygen in our body. It activates different regions of the brain. And it allows us to get into the subconscious, which is so powerful because the subconscious is really the storehouse of anything that's ever inspired us in our life, anything that we've ever read, any conversation that we've ever had. It's all in there. And when we can tap into that and make new connections, come up with more expansive, innovative ideas and solutions, I mean, it's so expansive. I truly use this every single day in my business so that I can come up with new and unique, authentic, progressive ideas in business.
Yeah, I've been in business 20 years, and I think with different businesses, and the fear-based reactions can be somewhat subconscious, even like we don't even know that that's how we're reacting. We can sense that it's familiar, but I love that this work, I think, just allows those fears to take the back seat and allows your most intelligent part of your brain to make the decisions for your future self. So you don't, so you make, so you're driving forward from that perspective.
Yeah, it's great for you too, because 20 years, across different businesses or companies or industries or skills, I mean, that's such a wealth of knowledge.
Mhm.
So for you to be able to access that and apply something that you learned 15 years ago that might be relevant to this, and then this partnership and this old contact and network here, I mean, that's so cool that you have all of that to tap into. But you're right, because your nervous system will react to what's familiar. This is what happened when I was in this scenario a few years ago, and therefore I might anticipate that or project this reaction. And you want to make sure that you're breathing out those emotions, you're calm, you're centered, you're still, and you are choosing the best solution, for your highest good and for the highest good of everyone around you.
Yeah, totally. And it's funny, even just noticing patterns of things that you wanted to carry forward in terms of the wisdom, learn from those experiences. I just feel like this process allows you to tap into that in a way that your intellect can't override. And that's been such a great part of the experience for me. So your your breath work is for both business owners and entrepreneurs. Like, what are some of the big shifts that you've seen in some of your students or students? Like, share some examples just to inspire our listeners.
Oh man, I mean, I have countless examples, but the first ones that come to mind, I would say one of the strongest examples of where we really understood how the past was affecting the present and the future. I had one gentleman who was a former entrepreneur and was wanting to pursue it again after a perceived failure, and said that, I really want to leave a legacy for my children, but I feel like I've hit my ceiling, I've hit my limitations. And we went into his very first session ever. And he discovered that his block was from sexual trauma from being 5 years old.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, whoa. And that's where his fear of being seen, his fear of success, his fear of visibility was coming from. So that was on the really intense end
Mhm.
of just showing the connection between what can happen in childhood and how it can affect you in your leadership was honestly mind blowing to me as well. But one of my clients right now, we're working on an exit for his company. Is a goal of selling it for $200 million. And there's a lot of things that are coming up. There's a lot of
Yeah.
fears that are coming up in that process. There's a lot of steps that he needs to take in terms of building back up the company culture and making it profitable right now. And every day we have to really focus on what's the task at hand. How can he show up in his highest leadership? How can he still motivate his employees? And every day he comes up with a new solution. Every day he comes up with a new project, a new partnership, a way to inspire and motivate. So there's so many things. I think one of the most common things I see in female entrepreneurs is releasing self-doubt through the breath,
Mhm.
releasing imposter syndrome, seeing yourself in that highest impact, seeing, being of service and how you can inspire others. And when you make that shift from your ego to contribution, I think it's really powerful. I think it's really powerful for a lot of women, especially.
Yeah, so powerful. And I can share from my own experience, having built companies, sold companies, like when you're flying at that higher altitude, as I like to say, like the ride gets really bumpy.
Yeah.
And it's easy to start feeling alone. It's easy to start feeling like nobody understands. And you start telling yourself these stories, and then you end up isolating yourself. So I think it's so good that he has you, and that anybody who's listening who's feeling that kind of pressure and intensity has the ability to use something like breath work to say, okay, is that true? Like, am I really alone? Do I, or do I have my own back through this?
Yeah.
It builds
Yeah.
that confidence.
It's hard. Entrepreneurship is it's a hard journey, and it's not linear. It's not like a straight shot up. So I think being able to connect back to the vision is something that is really important to me. And I created a session. I create sessions that I need, on the app as well, so that I can do them. And I remember when I created the belief session, it was at a time where I was like, man, the economy, it's like tough out there right now. And I was feeling we were getting a lot of rejections, and a lot of people weren't really understanding what it is that I wanted to create and build. And I didn't want to get too much in my logical mind. I didn't want to have to like fight for my worth. And I was like, I just need to get like connect back to my heart space, remember why I'm doing this, and see the highest vision again. And I created that session. I did it for 2 weeks straight, just to shift myself out of that and just keep propelling forward, because
Yeah.
I definitely think that one of the biggest differences between people who are successful and those who aren't where they want to be is just the successful ones didn't quit. They didn't stop. And sometimes you just need, some extra tools to help you when you're down.
Yeah. And they didn't disconnect from their overall philosophy.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big temptation as entrepreneurs, because we get distracted, or people tell us that we should be doing this or that, and it may or may not be aligned with our mission or our vision. And that can be a temptation too in entrepreneurship. And then all of a sudden you don't like what you're doing, you don't like what you built. I've had that happen as well. And it's just been it's such great work that you're doing. Last year you had an article in Forbes about the 3 superpowers of entrepreneurship. Can you share a little bit more about those traits and why you think they're so important for entrepreneurs?
Yeah. So the traits that I believe to be extremely important for entrepreneurship is self-awareness, emotional regulation, and intuition. And I
Mm,
think when you're on this path, you read so many thought leadership books, and you hear about perseverance and dedication and commitment and work ethic, which absolutely those are great. But the ones that aren't discussed as much are just having this ability to control your own state, to
yeah.
really your own state. And self-awareness to me was something that I always knew was a priority, but I didn't recognize how much of my conditioning from being, a fast-paced New Yorker was still in my body as I started to build and grow mastery. I was getting really frustrated. I was getting really impatient at things. And when I became more aware and attuned with myself, I was like, oh, this is just me trying to prove versus really caring about the overall picture and the sort of harmony of the whole team. So just becoming aware of that, and then changing the way you communicate, changing the words that you use to make sure that it's inspiring others so that they feel a part of it, I think was very eye-opening to me, and something that I think more leaders should be very aware of, especially in their speech and their communication for their teams. Um, and then emotional regulation, man, when you make decisions in business from a heightened state, things can go wrong very quickly.
Yeah.
So I think being able to ground in your decision making from a place of stillness versus reactivity is powerful, because that can create a really big ripple effect if you do those things impulsively. So again, the breath helps with both of these things, like the breath helps you get the insight and the root of where your behavior pattern is coming from. And then it also helps you calm down your autonomic nervous system so that you can really get rooted. And to me, the most important thing is both of those things so that you can hear your intuition.
Yeah.
I believe the thing that's not discussed enough in modern society is the impact that intuition can have on business. I believe in filling your mind with as much strategy and knowledge and information as you can, and then acting on it from instinct, from your inner knowing, from your inner guidance, because that's what creates more unique innovation in the world, that's more authentic to you, and can just give you ideas that aren't basic, aren't cookie cutter, aren't things that already exist in the world, and just make things a little bit more creative and interesting.
Yes. Yes. Everything you're sharing is just, I'm a strategist. I'm a consultant. People, national brands, high growth organizations come to me in our company, and we give them growth strategy. But when I really when I really look at, what grows a company, it's what you're talking about. The strategy helps. Great strategy is great strategy. But when we talk about, sometimes I'll assign a prescription and I'll say to the founder, how does this feel to you? Like, what is your intuition telling you?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's fear-based. I feel as though you look at the data and the data tells them opposite. And sometimes you can kind of tell that they're working through something that intuitively they know, and I need to pull it forward so I can collaborate with them on the strategy.
Oh yeah, that's honestly, I think that's so smart. And what I would add to that is when you're feeling into what feels good for you,
Yeah.
is to trust the timing of it as well. When we launched Mastery Corporate, my default reaction, my type A personality reaction was like, great, send 5,000 emails to every single Fortune 500. And just like be a machine about it and just be relentless in this execution. And then I was like, whoa, I just dropped right back into being a New Yorker, and I needed to do breath work and be like, what feels intuitive to me? And my intuition was like, these are the 4 companies that are so deeply in alignment with your brand and who you want to work with. And instead of the quantity, focus your energy on this quality. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to nurture that. I'm going to trust that, and I'm going to nurture it. So my logical mind was like sales, revenue, impact, productivity, like wanting to go in one direction. But my body was like, that doesn't feel good to me. And what feels good is the impact of partnering and putting my energy and my effort into these.
Yep.
So that's kind of the balance that I see. Like, I'm all about strategy. I think you need to know what's going on in the marketplace. You need to understand, your competitive landscape. You need to have acquisition, monetization, business plans, all the things. But then I just feel into my body, and I'm like, where's the opportunity that maybe my logical mind doesn't see, that maybe has more long-term legs?
Oh, that is so good. And I think for all of us who are high achievers, we are so used to getting results through action.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, it can't carry you to where you want to be. Like, you can't hustle to that destination anymore. Either you did and it didn't work, or you're realizing you're capped. Like, you're capped by your hustle. Like, there's only so many hours in the day, and you have to lean on more of the supernatural abilities that we're gifted with, that we're naturally gifted with.
Yeah,
So,
that's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, everything you're doing is just so amazing. That's why I really wanted to bring you on here. I'm so grateful that you said yes, because I'm excited to share with our audience and our email list the benefits that I've experienced through Mastery. If people are trying to figure out if you're on your phone and you're like, Mastery, it's Mastry, so that, I've had a couple of people come back to me and be like, I couldn't find it. So that it's RY at the end. And then where else can people find you if they want to learn more about your methodology and certification?
Yeah. So my Instagram is at Francesca Sipma, and my website is francescasipma.com. Those are 2 resources where I'm always, posting about courses, events, classes. The certification is coming up actually quite soon in May. If anyone is interested in mastering this process for yourself personally and professionally, and deliver transformation to your clients, then that's going to be on May 18th, and they can join the waitlist on my website.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here, Melissa. If you're listening, thank you so much for this introduction. And I just appreciate you being part of our community.
Thank you for having me. I loved it.